a distorted picture, right? So, for example, if you see a crime take place and you see a series of facts happen, you see a certain people come by at a certain spot, and then you see other people go by at a certain spot, and then you see a murder happen or something terrible happen, but you mix up the facts. You picked the wrong person. It was person B that actually did the murder, not person A, but you got confused in your memory, or you got confused in your perception or your state of shock when it saw it, and you get the facts. So you've presented facts. Yes, I saw person A. Yes, I saw person B, but you've confused the analysis of the facts. You've confused the narrative of the facts. Then you can get the entire facts presented, but in a way that's incorrect. And that's not a factual story. And that's what I think I see so much of the time in corporate media today, is that they take half-truths, they spin things, they make things out to be one way, when in reality they're not. And so that's why it's so important for us to have a moment where we can follow scientific evidence to reach the conclusions that we need to reach. And that's why I'm happy to have a guest with me tonight. Now, before I get into this, and we're live here, so who knows what these social media platforms do. But this guest I had on, well, that I'm about to bring up live with us, I had his name in the title when we began the broadcast. And it was like a few seconds in, and all the people were flooding in on the stream. You could see the numbers going up, and all of a sudden, bam, zero, went nothing. And I said, and everybody started messaging and saying, hey, we can't get it. YouTube must be throttling your channel again. And so we said, okay, well, I said, I'm going to stop the stream. And I took his name out. And I said, let's start it up again. Same title, just took his name out this time. And everybody could see the stream. Voila. But you know what? We're not going to cancel a guest. Now I've got to have him on all the time now because of that. That's just my nature. If I say, wait a second, I've got a fantastic guest now. If you came and put his name in the title, and you got CCP loving YouTube over there saying, up, 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 up. That's a blacklist name, apparently. And so that's a shame. It's a shame that they want to silence diverse voices, because our guest today is someone who is got the best credentials. This is someone who went to Oxford. This is somebody who went to McMaster University. This is someone who is a scientist, a high caliber scientist. This is someone who has spent his life devoted to evidence and following evidence wherever it goes. And his credentials are fantastic. This is someone who worked with the WHO and someone who worked at the highest levels during the pandemic response of the Trump administration, of the last administration. So we have with us the one and only, the great Dr. Paul Alexander. How you doing? We have Paul with us. All right. Well, we're going to try to see if we can get Paul on. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. There you are. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to have you on, and we're going to have you on for the full hour here. So we have plenty of time to unpack the information and the evidence that you've been investigating. But I gave you a little introduction, but go ahead and tell folks a little bit more about what you were involved with during the pandemic response, because you're an evidence-based medicine researcher, you're a scientist, and as I mentioned, you were in Canada when you got the call to join the pandemic response in the last administration, correct?
JCE, they would write and ask me to review. When people submit papers to publish, I get asked to review papers, particularly from the methods point of view and the statistics. So if you handed me a research paper right now, I just want to see the title so I have an idea of what you're talking about. I'm not really interested in the introduction. I don't want to see all of that. I just want to go straight to your methods, that subheading methods. And I'm going to start reading it. And I want to see a little bit of the results. I'm not even interested in the conclusion. I just need to go to the methods. And once I read the methods for about 3 minutes, I could decide if that paper is going in the garbage bin or if that paper is credible, because there are certain keywords and certain phrases that I need to see, and I need to see how you did what you did. And basically, people don't like academic scientists with evidence-based medicine skills like myself, because we tend to rip apart whatever you do. So, my background training was at Oxford in evidence-based medicine at McMaster. I did my PhD there and postdoc. In fact, my doctoral supervisor at McMaster was the founder of evidence-based medicine. That term, evidence-based, he founded Dr. Gordon Guyatt about 30, 40 years ago with Dr. Dave Sackett. And the rest of the global medical community has flowed from there. And it's kind of very interesting because you would say, what is so unique about this term evidence-based medicine? What is this about? Well, what's funny about it, well, actually troubling, is that doctors, scientists, whomever, 30, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, when they made decisions about anything, policy developers, medical doctors, surgeons, whatever, they were not basing it on the science or the data. They often were basing it on what my colleague down the hall did, what I heard worked, etc. And the camp that I'm at, Dr. Guyatt, around 30, 40 years ago, when he came out of medical school, he and Dr. Sackett, came up with this view that, we're going to stop. You can't have doctors or surgeons making decisions not based on the best evidence. So they started this push and this philosophy, and well, it has grown from there, where we are saying, if you're a surgeon and you have a patient on the table and you're operating and you run into some difficulty, you've never seen this situation before, and the patient is under the knife. You're in the operating room, you have the whole team with you. Many of these hospitals have medical libraries attached to them in the hospital. So we are saying the surgeon should, even if you get the opportunity for 5 minutes, you have the ability to get into the evidence database quickly and take a quick clean of it and try to see what is the best step next for you to take based on the evidence, based on what other surgeons have done and how they have pulled it up and published. And you publish via systematic reviews and meta-analyses, which are really a summary of all of the evidence on that question. So really my role is to take the vast amount of information on a topic and summarize it in a review so that we may take 100 different studies conducted by 100 different research groups on a topic, but we will write one paper, one review that collates everything that they've done, and we assess their approach for the quality, and we come up with a finding that, this is the body of evidence, and this is what we think is the final conclusion, and we also would rate the quality and say, what, this overall body of evidence is junk. So don't really pay much attention to it, or we need further study, etc. The reality is, as David mentioned, is that around mid of 2019, I was doing some work for WHO with some training programs, evidence-based training programs for low and middle income countries. And I actually was in Toronto, and I was migrating to the United States. So I was doing it kind of piecemeal, going to the United States, taking some stuff, coming back to Toronto, gathering some stuff and closing off there. But I got this call to help WHO. And as I was doing that in February of 2020, I happened to be in Toronto that week. WHO, the pandemic was emerging from China and Italy, and we were seeing all those cases, all those images from Italy and people dying, and China, the reports coming out of China, and all of the confusion with WHO China saying no human to human transmission, WHO saying covering for China saying no human to human transmission. So it was just like a disaster you're watching unfold. WHO tapped me, uh, the PAHO Pan American Health Office in Washington D.C. also, and asked me to help them summarize the evidence, anything available globally on any aspect of COVID, so they could try and make some sense of it at WHO before they put out any statements to the globe. So that's what I was doing for WHO. And as I was doing that, around April, while I was watching the task force from the United States on the television daily, because of course I was interested, and you know, it had the whole team in place by then: Fauci, Birx, Hahn, Redfield, Giroir, the whole group. And every day, you know, the president would come out, and they would come out with him, and they would fight each other and battle, and it was just like I refer to it sometimes like a clown car unfolding in front of our eyes, because it was such a, it was just like mess. And I saw the president struggling, also, and then all of a sudden I got a call, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was Ashton Kutcher, one of these people punking me, and little me from the islands, living in Toronto, and insignificant person. But no, I really got a call from Washington side, saying that some of the stuff that I had written and statements that I had made crossed the White House, crossed the president, etc., and that they were very interested in things that I was saying, and that the president didn't. This was the exact words to me on the phone. The president didn't want the type of people that he had around him. He was realizing who were just yes people responding to him, or people who were sucking up to him, etc. He wanted top scientists who would push back on him, who would push back on the task force, and who would provide the task force additional information and evidence if they were not taking it into account. And just the fact that I was against a lot of things that the task force was doing, that seemed to attract them. So they asked me if I was interested, and I still thought it was a joke, but they told me come in about 3 days to the US border, because it was closed at that point to Canada. And I still thought it was a joke when I drove up there, because the border had no one but border agents with security. And they actually walked up to me when I rolled up my car, and the guy asked me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I was told to come here on this day at this time, and people would meet me here." And he said, "About what?" I said, "Well, I'm going to work with the US government." And then he said, no, nobody told me anything. Turn your car around and head back the next way. As he told me that, and I have to be honest, I was a little scared. It was very intimidating, because first time I ever went to the US border, and there were no cars on the US side, no cars on the Canadian. It was like a movie. All of a sudden, somebody came up to him and spoke to him, and then he opened the gate, and they let me across, and it began from there, you know. The government vetted me right there on the US side. I had a long meeting for about 3 hours. I even went to another building in Buffalo, had another meeting there where they discussed, and was speaking to the White House, and into the White House, and I could listen to the conversation. And they just asked me straight. They said, "Well, you know, we want to offer you the option now that we finished vetting you here. Would you like to join the table?" That was the exact term. And I said, "Well, you mean like to work for the president, to work for the government?" I said, "Of course, who wouldn't say yes?" I told him straight, I said, "Listen, if this was Obama asking me to join, if Obama was in power, I would have said yes, I'd have jumped at it. Similarly, right now, if Biden was to tap me and ask somebody, I consider myself a low level guy. I don't consider myself anything significant. But if they tap me and say, come and help, I will gladly help, because this is about helping the United States and American people, and helping the country, and trying to save lives. So I want to put that on the table. To me, it's not about politics. This is about the science, and this is about trying to do the best that you can do. And anyway, I went to Washington, and that was history, and now I'm on this call.
Let's take a quick break and return live on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Granosky. Stay with us. Hello, this is David Granosky with A Neighbor's Choice. Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. We are live, and I'm here with a special guest, someone who worked at the HHS as a scientist, as an evidence-based scientist, who was in the last administration at the height of when the pandemic was just kickstarting in America and the world. And he was just telling us a story about how he had a little bit of difficulty getting from Canada, where he was residing, to the American border because of the nature of the lockdown at the time. But you were able to get through, and then you were able to start your job at the HHS, right? No problems, right?
Well, David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, let me the way you said it, the yes sir is yes. I was able to start my job, but it was not no problems. It was very interesting, and I think it's something that, the media tries to mischaracterize you, and I think working with the prior administration, once you started, you were like persona non grata, and you were attacked and smeared and slandered. And it's a very catastrophic thing because, remember, I come originally from the islands. Although I lived in Canada, it was very major and a big step for me. I took my family and my youngest child to Washington, and I really knew no one there. And all I wanted to do was to help and serve. And as I said, if another administration, if the present administration asked me to help America, I would. In my small little way, I would do anything to help. So, bottom line though is when I got there, the HHS that I worked at, that building is Health and Human Services. It's the umbrella organization for the FDA, CDC, NIH, everyone. All of these agencies report under the umbrella Health and Human Services. So the buildings were basically empty because DC was shut down. And but the HHS had staff, my unit, the aspect of what we were working on, the secretary's office, the assistant secretary. And the reality though about it is I quickly realized that hello?
We're going to take a quick break. We're speaking with Dr. Paul Alexander. Stay with us. More to come in just a moment, live on A Neighbor's Choice.